What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Barnabas Brushes. Tonight is episode 10 of our miniature painting show here in Elite Encounters. My name is Patrick. I play the character of Barnabas in our Soul Sever campaign, which is our second edition Pathfinder live play that we play in our homebrew world of Iota Dree right here on the same channel every Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're joining us now, we'd like to welcome everybody aboard. We'd like to give a special welcome to the elite. That's our subscribers out there that are supporting our channel and helping us do what we're doing for you. So what we're going to do tonight is continue painting some miniatures that we have for our Pathfinder campaigns. But before I get to that, I have a couple announcements I'd like to make just real quick. This past weekend, we were at PopCon Louisville, so I want to thank everybody for coming out to that. We had a great time playing Bar Fight for Bonding with several new people that came and checked out the Elite Encounters room there at PopCon. And we had several players actually win 3-day badges to next summer's PopCon right here in Indianapolis. So we'll look forward to seeing you there when we bring Elite Encounters to PopCon next year here in the Circle City. Second announcement I'd like to make is we are still on the home stretch of our dice giveaway. From now until the end of August, every person who subscribes to the channel, I'm sorry, not subscribes, let me rephrase that, follows our channel, between now and the end of August, we reached our goal of 200 followers actually during PopCon. So thanks everybody who followed the channel, and if you're out there subscribing, thank you for that. So we're continuing to gain entries into that. We're going to keep going until the end of the month. We got 3 days left. So if you haven't followed the channel already, please do. Click that button. All the links are right there on our channel page. You can check out our YouTube for past videos. We've got lots of social medias that are up. And we do, of course, have a Patreon. So if you feel like supporting us and helping us bring the shows that we bring to you every week, we certainly could use the support, and we certainly would appreciate it. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and get back to what we were doing last time, now that we've gotten those fun announcements out of the way. Hey, Overwatch, hey, thanks for joining. Yes, we have, not to put too fine a point on it, yeah, we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and money into the tech and materials we need to bring our show to life. So, any support you guys can give us out there, we certainly appreciate it, because it helps us keep bringing these shows to life for you. Last week we started working on some figures from that Epic Encounters line, the Arena of the Undead Horde. This is a line of miniature products from Steamforge Games that produce a number of kits that come with miniatures. These miniatures usually have a theme and an associated booklet that contains a small adventure written for a fantasy role-playing game, easily converted to the Pathfinder rule set that we play here at Elite Encounters. It also comes with a nice flip mat and beautifully sculpted miniatures, usually in a nice set, or if you need a big boss monster, they also have kits that have one big gigantic boss monster in the kit and an encounter designed for that creature. This Undead Horde, the figure we were working on, is this Iron Skull Andabata. I don't know if you can see that guy right here in the middle. Iron Skull Andabata. We kind of made some jokes last week. What the heck is an Andabata? Is that some kind of weird D&D monster I've never heard of? And I did a little research, and it turns out an Andabata is actually a very specific type of gladiator that they were blinded in the arena. So in payment for their particular crimes, they were forced to fight in the gladiatorial arenas while being completely blindfolded. So they usually wore a helmet with a visor that totally concealed their eyes, which explains on this sculpt the blindfold around this guy's eyes. So that's what an Andabata is. And now I've learned something, even at my ripe old age, which is great. You always learn something new every day. That's what an Andabata is. And now you know too, if you didn't already. At any rate, this guy is sculpted to be kind of the maybe the boss or commander of this undead force that came in this arena of the undead horde kind of kit. So you can see, like I said, he's got this blindfold. He's also, for one of his shoulder pauldrons, has an actual corpse of a regular medium-sized creature just strapped to his shoulder as armor. And then he's got this weird kind of two-handed catapult flail, I don't know, mace, whatever this is. He's catapulting big globs of bone and undead flesh to throw at the enemies. Hey, welcome aboard. Nice to see you guys. So we were just talking about what an Andabata is. Hmm. You guys are going to hold that steam vent encounter against me for a while, I think. Uh, it was we were definitely discussing it today at work. Some of the challenges of going from like a really easy encounter to a more challenging encounter where the skills and mortality of our characters are actually challenged. And that's kind of a fun balance to strike as a GM, is like make your heroes feel heroic, but also make them feel like they're in mortal danger. I'm also having some difficulties today with a possibly sick cat. So if you hear a cat meowing uncomfortably in the background, he's got an appointment tomorrow. Unfortunately, they're closed today, but we're gonna go get him checked out. So not to worry if you hear old Frank howling like a madman. Maybe he's just lonely. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get working on painting this guy. We'll try and get Frank to calm down a little bit and let him know that, I'm here listening to him. So he's glitching my green screen out a little bit. No, they weren't so bad, Lenny. You haven't been hit by one yet. We'll see what happens next week when you get blasted with 15 points of fire damage. Anyway, I don't want to laugh about it too much, but I did have a blast last night playing our Starfinder playtest. We do have one more episode of that playtest that'll be happening on the 3rd of September, right after Labor Day. Yeah, careful what you wish for. But yeah, and then we'll be getting right back to Iota and getting back to our Pathfinder games. And then we'll see what the future holds. If Starfinder makes a return or not, we'll have to see what happens. But it's time to get back to Pathfinder. All right, Frank, you ready to go chill out for a little bit? All right, all right. That's Frank. Anybody? He is a follower and subscriber to the channel. Um, we appreciate you, Frank. Okay, so this guy with this Andabata, actually, I think I'm going to make a light adjustment. So pardon me for just a second. I'm going to turn the room over. All right. Hey, welcome aboard. Looks like, all right. At any rate, this Andabata, like I said, is a blinded gladiator. That's where the term comes from. So let's put some paint on this guy. We talked last time about kind of the more major skeletal features of the monster himself. I think I'm going to put some of that same bone color on these rib bones that are kind of down this side here. I think those are ribs. I'm going to look at them a little bit closer. They're shaped like ribs, but they seem awfully thin for ribs. They might be the guy's armor. So let me take a look at that under the magnifier. There is a little bit of a skull underneath that helmet there, so maybe we'll slap some paint in there. But the other bones that are being used for the weapon, I want to kind of use a more distinct color for that to help them kind of stand out from the creature's bones. Otherwise, it would just be one big glob of bones, and that would get kind of boring to look at, I think. So let's lay some colors down. Yeah, the more I look at that, I don't think that's actually ribs. I think that is likely armor of some sort. That's just kind of staggered down. Maybe it's ribs with some iron rings or something on them. We can get creative though. Let's see. Mhm. Some leather straps I'm going to want to work on. Okay. For now, let's focus on his bone weapon. And for that, I'm going to grab a different color of some of my skeletal colors over here. Mm. This is the fun part of having lots of different paints is sometimes I got to dig for the color I want. Because I don't have all the caps memorized. I have them kind of color coded by this cap. Hey, thanks, Case. Anyway, this is Speed Paint, Army Painter Speed Paint Bony Matter. This is part of the 2.0 formulation, which, as we've discussed before, has that new medium in it that doesn't reactivate when a new wet color is applied or put over it. All right. I'm going to keep my palette off camera. This is a pretty big model, so I want lots of space here on my table to work with this big guy here. And as I've mentioned before, with the speed paints, I typically like to use inexpensive acrylic brushes, inexpensive synthetic brushes, I should say. A golden Taklon brush set that you can get, any of your art stores is fine, but even your retailers will carry these brush sets for relatively cheap. You can get a whole set for less than 10 bucks. So they work really well for speed paints because they do have a tendency with the medium to flow, and they will flow up into your upper bristles and sometimes into your ferrule. You don't want to have that happen on your nice brushes. So that's why I use these, inexpensive brushes you get from, pretty much any retailer. Uh, just golden Taklon bristles in a cheap plastic handle. Okay, so I'm going to start with this weapon, like I said, that he's got this big kind of weird two-handed catapult mace. I don't know what this is. It's not really a mace because he's not really bashing anybody with it. I mean, maybe he is if he runs out of undead flesh ammunition. But I'm just going to really lay this paint on fairly thick and let it work the pigment. The heavier pigment's going to flow down into the shadowed parts of that slap chop prime we did last week. And the lighter pigments will stay on top. You can see that starting to happen already on the rib cage there on the underside. And as Sunshine pointed out, that's likely the back vertebrae supporting it there because that's going to hold a lot of weight, right? It's not the sternum like we thought. All right, Frank. Definitely some ribs there. So it looks like he's kind of cobbled together several long bones, some very large femurs of some giant or other, and strapped them together with leather straps to kind of create this handle of this weapon. All right, looks like Frank gave me one last howl before he's going to settle down on his couch in the sunroom and maybe catch a nap. Oh, to live the life of a cat, right? Where you can just get up, eat, walk around, and yell at people and yell. Frank's my cat who has made himself known by howling at me angrily. He may be sick. He's got an appointment at the vet tomorrow afternoon. Um, Got to get him checked out. He's having some issues. We don't know if it's behavioral or what's going on, but we'll get him checked out. So not to worry, and sure you'll be fine. But as I was saying, what a way to live it, the life of a cat. Eat, sleep, yell at people, judge people. Oh, thanks, Sunshine. I'll be sure to let him know. Okay, I'm gonna let that paint kind of dry there and get some more in my palette of this bone color. And I'm gonna take a look at some other colors I've got going on and start kind of planning what am I gonna do? Um, what do you guys think I should do for the cloak? Oh, thanks, guys. What color should we do the cloak? I think so. Some of our Iron Skull duelists had cloaks as well. I believe we painted them in a kind of a green color that ultimately, when it came out, I wasn't a huge fan of. A really cool red, a purple, and a blue. Um, this guy being the leader, probably of this group of undead. I'm thinking maybe either a blue or red. You guys, let me know. Let's get some more bony matter paint here in the palette because there's definitely some more stuff I want to work on with that color. I think these bones that are rising up out of his back here, that he's kind of strapped together this weird uh, sort of crest. Being careful not to get paint in where those leather, thongs are holding everything together. Because I'm going to go over that with a leather color here in just a minute. Okay, we're thinking some kind of orange. Yeah, it's interesting. That's definitely going to stand out and be different from the rest of the crew. Looks like orange is, yeah, it really does depend on the orange, but it is going to be a very similar color to the bone. I would agree with that. It's not going to contrast very well. Um, so the bone has kind of a yellowish tint to it, and your contrasting colors are going to be opposite of yellow on the color wheel, which is typically going to be blue or purple, right? If you think of like your sports teams uniforms typically have high contrast colors to really grab your attention on the field. So if you think like the LA Lakers, for example, they have that yellow purple combination. Minnesota Vikings is another one that comes to mind. Um, any other sports teams you can think of with that blue and yellow or purple and yellow theme? I'm sure that there are multiple out there. Any Major League Baseball teams that have a blue and yellow theme? I'm trying to think. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And what about all these bones in his little backpack here that he uses for ammunition? I might actually do those in bone color as well, similar to what he's got in his little catapult here, just to contrast from the weapon and to kind of make him stand out and be different from what he's made his weapon out of, because they're like fresh, more fresh human bones, I guess. So for that, I go to my old standby pallid bone from the Army Painter line. The Army Painter speed paints, I've said it before and I'll say it again, they have really made my productivity and throughput for miniature painting really go through the roof. Yeah, I'm glitching out so bad. Uh, I might have to get rid of this green screen and just go with a real physical background. But the speed paints, like I was saying, really improved my throughput because usually over a slap chop prime, it's one coat and done instead of doing hours of layering work in the classical sense. I still have my go-to line of paints that I like to use for layer painting, and you can also use those acrylic miniature paints over the top of the speed paints as an additional highlight layer if you choose to do so. If you want a little bit more pop and contrast that the speed paints give you with just the one coat solution. But for tabletop, I think the speed paints one and done, and they look great. So yeah, I may have to try that. So this backpack slung over his the back of his shoulders here is just full of human bones. Just a big pile, just an abattoir, if you will, of skeletal remains. When I first got the speed paints, my son called them cheater paints because that's kind of how it makes you feel. You're just like, is it really this easy to slap some paint over some texture like that and really get that detail to come out, like those skulls and uh, rib cages back there? Once that detail starts popping and that paint starts drying. Let's put a little bit on this skull here under the helmet. Touch up his pelvic girdle here. I think it needs a little bit more color. Okay, and then since he's using this ammunition in his backpack to fill up his little catapult weapon here, we'll paint that in that same pallid bone color. There's one big screaming skull in that pile of remains in there. You can just push the paint around and let the pigments work their way into the under prime or under paint that you have going on. And the pigments will do the work for you for the most part. It really makes mini painting to get miniatures on the table for any kind of role playing game just a breeze. It's so simple and effective. And for people with busy lives that have a number of different hobbies, miniature painting just being one of them. Uh, ooh, a black cloak. Ooh, I kind of like that idea. Um, Thankfully, speed paint does have some nice black options. There's a couple. Man, I'm really liking this black idea. It's definitely going to contrast against the bone color, black and yellow. But sorry you've had a rough day, Case. We're glad you're here with us, lurking around. I've been watching you play the new Monkey King game, and it looks beautiful. It looks like a really great visual game. Let's see here. As I was saying, we got a couple options for black when it comes to speed paints. Uh, the go-to is just a basic, what's called grim black, and it does have a darker black shadow and kind of a lighter grayish black highlight. And then this is kind of maybe ironic since we are painting a cloak. We have this occultist cloak, which I like to use because it has a blue gray hint to it. So the darker pigments will go down and still look fairly black, but then we'll have a more of a bluish gray tone and highlight to the blacks. So blacks, when you tend to layer highlight them, you'll start off with a really deep black kind of under to undercoat. Your shadows will be dark black, and then you will kind of tone up to either a gray to light gray highlight, or you can go with a blue-black mid-tone to a blue highlight on some of your black leathers. It really depends on the style you're going for. Like a biker jacket will probably highlight up to a blue-black. And then something that is maybe a patent leather would be more of your gray-black, always highlighted all the way up to white to get some of that shininess in the layers. So what do you guys think? Let's try a cultist cloak and see how that comes out. And if we think a cultist cloak is not black enough, maybe on the second model we'll go straight grim black and just give them a little bit of a tonal difference. That way, if you have both of them on the table at the same time, you can easily tell them apart. And I've said that before too. When I'm GMing, and if I have two of the same models, like if I'm playing one of my home games, I use a lot of giants. They're currently fighting a lot of giants right now, fire giants, and I tend to have two or three models of the exact same sculpt of fire giants that I've painted. So I'll give them a slight, different color, slightly different. Their armor might be slightly different, or something about them that I can visually easily tell one from the other on the board, so I don't lose track of them as I'm keeping tabs on their hit points, if there's any change to their armor class, any conditions that they end up having. Um, just a little pro tip. Interestingly enough, looking at the back of the cloak, I just noticed that there's this. You can barely see it, but right here, there's like the skeleton of like a human foot just sticking out of this backpack. So we'll be sure not to paint over that with our occultist cloak as we go in and paint this up. And I think this is going to contrast nicely with the bone. So what a great call, Sunshine. That's awesome thinking. Instead of just relying on straight color wheel theory, right? Like, why not play with blacks and grays? And again, you can pretty liberally spread this on there with your brush. And the medium that will flow over the model, pull that pigment down into the darker parts to shadow, and the highlights will start popping out on their own. You can see that happening right now, even as the paint is wet. This is kind of more of a blue-gray color that I use this color to paint a whole bunch of ninja models for a client of mine that sent me a whole little battalion of ninjas he wanted painted up. They were kind of some old school metal miniatures, and the speed paints work great over metal minis as well, over that slap chop prime. So if you're worried about, I know on the show we've painted nothing but plastic models, but this works fine over metal as well. Okay. Being pretty careful here over the shoulders, not to get it onto where I'm going to paint his armor pieces or these leather straps. Back over back here by this little foot skeleton. There's another little long bone sticking out of there. It's pretty crazy the details that start popping out of these guys as you paint them. The prime will usually kind of bring those details out if you can spot them, but as you paint, they really, really the the themes and tone and message that the sculptor is trying to get out with this work starts kind of coming to life, and it's really cool to see like what story this is telling. Like, where did all these bones come from in his backpack and in the catapult of his weapon? Did they rob some grave? Are they the victims of their previous raids and battles? Is it your townsfolk and you're exacting your revenge as your PCs make their way to this arena of this undead horde to bring them justice? Who knows? That's uh that's up to your table. Okay, I need a little bit more. Make sure I get where the cloak kind of is wrapping underneath and around his arms. There we go. Behind his legs. Always where you want to get where your eyes may not catch the first time, and give it a scan over, make sure you don't miss any parts. All right, so that's going to dry down for a little bit. You could probably just make out there by his hip this little foot and femur hanging out. Okay, so while that's drying, I'll clean my brush out. And I've said it before, but if you're new or just catching up with us, just water to clean the brushes out. These are water-soluble paint, so water will be just fine cleaning your brush out. I'm going to clean some of the paint off of the strap. I oversprayed just a little bit. And looks like I missed a spot there. There we go. So pretty quickly, our Andabata is definitely coming to life for us. Um, while that's drying down, I'm going to go ahead and use some of the leftover palette bone I have in my palette to catch some of the bones that are down here in the base. Uh, don't like wasting paint if I can help it. I'm going to use a different brush. I think I'm going to grab a finer point detail brush to get these because there's smaller bones down here. Just like that. There's just this little couple of long bones stuck down here in the mud. Here's another one here. Here's one here. And it looks like there's a really big one sticking out right here from behind his foot. Down in the ground here. Lots of little hidden details, especially in the bases. I've seen a lot of miniature sculptors will put like their signature kind of carved into the stones of the base, just to kind of sign their piece, so to speak. So that's always kind of fun to find, you know, a little name or a set of initials of the sculptor. Okay. Touch up these bones here. Okay. I think now I'm going to do a little bit of those leather straps that he's got all around his weapon, his little arm, that little piece coming off of his shoulders. Um, he's got some leather straps over the front of his cloak. And then we'll maybe work on some of the metallics, like the iron rings that are kind of holding his cloak together, the armor on the skeleton that he has for his pauldron. And we're making some pretty good progress here on this model. Um, let's see here. So my favorite color out of the Army Painter Speed Paint line for any kind of leather If it's a brown leather, I'm giving these paints a shake under the desk here. All the paints have a couple metal mixing balls in there to resuspend the pigment into your mixing media. You always want to give your paints a good mix and make sure that all the pigment is evenly dispersed throughout the medium. But this is hardened leather as my go-to for any kind of brown leathers for these. And there's not a lot of leather to work with on this model, so just one drop out of my dropper bottle will suffice. I was talking earlier about using normal acrylic paint lines for highlighting over your speed paints. And the announcement was made today that my favorite line of paints, formerly made by Privateer Press, the Formula P3 acrylic paint line, is being reformulated and improved on by Steamforge Games, the same company that is producing our models here for the show. Well, not for the show specifically, but that we are painting on the show. Steamforge Games also makes a number of miniature skirmish games, but they are reformulating and improving that P3 formula that is workable for a long time. The paint is a really long living paint, so you can keep them in your bottles for years as long as you keep them mixed. They stay workable, and they have a really good color blending system that shows you how to take your base colors and blend in other colors to create natural highlights and shadows for that layer. So they announced today they are kickstarting the release of the newly formulated, improved Formula P3 paint. So I'm really looking forward to when that goes live. I will definitely be signing up for that. If you're a hobby painter out there and you want a nice, concise paint line, definitely recommend that Formula P3. All right, let's put some leather down on this guy. I'll shut up shilling for paint companies. If anybody from Steamforge Games is listening and wants to sponsor the show with the new Formula P3 line, I wouldn't be adverse to that. Okay, just some real quick leather straps holding the cloak over the shoulders. We've got some leather on the weapon and his little back piece here we'll get. This hardened leather is one of my favorite colors. I probably have gone through 2 bottles of this already since this has come out. And it works really well on its own as a leather color for just speed painting over your prime. But you can also underpaint this. For example, if you want to create an oxblood leather, you can paint in like a purplish red color, or a very deep dark like wine red, and then paint hardened leather speed paint over that base color, and it creates a really nice, rich oxblood leather with really good shadows and highlights that looks like a really good oxblood or purplish red leather. I've also painted it over a light brown to kind of get a really rich leather color that reminded me of a baseball glove I had when I was a kid. Like it just really, I really like that recipe. So speed paints work well on their own, but they also can be used as not really a wash, but just a way to kind of add tone to your undercolor, your underpaint. So there are lots of ways to experiment with them, not just painting over a slap chop like we've been doing here. All right, so there's the leather straps kind of holding those older brown bones together. And then he's got these straps on his weapon, hobbling that together. Get those real quick. Some more leather straps up here. Sharper-eyed viewers out there may be catching me flick my thumb over a painted surface or a fingertip. While this paint is still wet and workable, if you've painted on an area that you don't want to paint on, one trick I've learned is just take my thumb and just poof, sponge it off. Just wipe it right off. You can do that with a wet paintbrush as well. Clean that off. As long as it's still wet and workable, it's easy to fix those mistakes because we all make them. And it's easy to do when you're painting something so small. Right. It's a little. Okay. So I think oh, it's got this little leather piece right here. Interesting. I think that's going to do for the leather. A little bit in there, down in those crevices. Now, do we want to use this leather on the blindfold as well? Thinking that might look kind of cool wrapped over the eyes. So easy. Helps if I keep the guy on camera. Oh, and I've found one more leather strap I missed. It's coming up underneath his arm here. Okay. There we go. All right. We'll let some of that dry down a little bit and think about the armor on this poor hapless soldier he's got strapped to his shoulder here. And normally I would do just like a dark steel color on armor like this. But because we use that kind of dark blackish gray for the cloak, we want this armor to kind of contrast and pop off a little bit. So maybe we'll use like some kind of darker gold or We have a few options. Let's see here. So we do have this looks like, it makes it look like the color is green. This is called Aztec gold. But this is a gold that has a greenish tint to it for whatever alloy or mineralization process that's happened with it. So it kind of does have a more green hue to the metal. This is a metallic paint from Speed Paint. So it does have the metal flake, but it has this kind of green tint to it, as you can see there in the bottle. It's probably a better representation. That might look pretty cool. Or we can go with kind of a more stereotypical brownish gold. Let's see here. There is also this golden armor color, which might be pretty close to the bone color. So I don't know that we want to go that route. What are you guys thinking? Let's maybe try the Aztec gold and see how that looks and pops off against that gray. That might look cooler. Or we can even go with like a dark bronze. Let's see. For that, we have Horde bronze and even darker Talos bronze. This is definitely more of a reddish, more coppery hue. I'm torn. Not sure that bronze is like a great metal for armor. I mean, isn't it kind of a softer metal? Maybe we'll go for we'll go with that Aztec gold and see what happens. Okay, sunshine's liking the copper. Okay. You might be right. I think that may contrast a little bit better. So let's go back to that Talos bronze. And we do have brazen copper, which is a pretty close. It's kind of more of a dark purplish metal. Let's try the Talos bronze. See how that looks. For channel points, I'll paint this thing hot pink. I don't care. All right, these metallics, we really want to give them a good mix. And for that, I've got a vortex mixer. It's behind my computer here, so I want to rethink the positioning of my vortex mixer for next time. Put it in a little bit more accessible place. So put my face right up in the camera. Oh boy. Only the finest production here at Elite Encounters. Yeah, and you don't even have to be a gal to wear pink. Maybe they're saying to themselves, I wouldn't be caught dead in that. Okay, I'll see myself out. So it is definitely an interesting contrast to that gray cloak. Definitely does pop out and stand out from the bone. You can definitely see the dings and dents and uh, cuts into this guy's armor. Likely what killed him. And as usual, I got out way more paint than I need. It's all right. I want to make sure I don't miss any of the detail on this guy's helmet, breastplate, pauldrons. Looks like he does have one little lone arm bone sticking out here. Um, so maybe we'll hit that with that solid bone color. Well, that's still workable in the palette for a little while longer, it looks like. Oh, there we get this. These bones there. Just kind of going back and hitting with some kind of cleanup details. Um, may have got missed on first pass. There we go. He's coming along pretty well. So what we'll probably do next week is we'll finish out the details on this guy with the cloak clasps, and we'll start on the base, and that'll probably wrap up this particularly Iron Skull, this particular Iron Skull Andabata. And then we'll start on the second, which I've gone ahead and laid down the black prime. So we'll slap chop them up and do another paint job on the second model out of the set. And keep moving along in our set. That's once we finish that, we'll have 8 models out of the set complete in just a few short weeks. So, like I said, speed paint really puts that throughput through the roof. So if you're a busy person like me, you can get your models painted in a relatively quick time frame. So we're coming up to the top of the hour. So I want to thank everyone for stopping by and hanging out with me paint again. Be sure to catch tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern, Overwatch's Orography and Cartographical Musings, or Overwatch's Map Show, as I like to call it, because, man, that's a tongue twister for me. Be sure to catch that. It's a lot of fun watching him kind of bring all the places that we visited in our homebrew campaign of Iota Dree, both in our Soul Severed campaign and our Psychic Promise campaign. All these places kind of you start putting on a map. You start thinking, oh yeah, now I know that in relation to this city, in relation to this forest, in relation to this volcano. It kind of helps immerse players in the world, and I hope it does for the viewers too. It definitely helps me live in the world. So be sure to check it out. Next week we do have one more episode of the Starfinder Second Edition playtest. I may or may not kill one or two of our players, but where's the fun if you don't kill somebody, right? Um, oh shoot, I probably shouldn't give the GM for the other shows any ideas. But anyway, they're in a dangerous spot, so let's see how they pull through as heroes next week, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And we still, like I said, next few days, we're still pushing to that, we're beyond that 200 follower goal. So if you haven't already, go ahead and follow the channel. If you can subscribe, support us on Patreon, we sure would appreciate it. But we will be giving out 2 sets of those Crystal Cast Gen Con 2024 exclusive die sets. We'll be announcing that next week. So look forward to seeing you next time. We'll catch you tomorrow with Overwatch's map show. Until then, have a good evening, guys. Take care.